I'd like to introduce to you the conference host, who is our prime conference host. Get the connection, see the link? Prime Minister, yeah, sorry. Henry Bonsu yesterday was at Channel 5 doing amazing things, looking at the new politics, discussing Nigel Farage, etc. And today, he's here with us in person. I think there's the VT, isn't there? Can we run the VT, please?
If someone inspires you, you can do absolutely anything. Inspiration is about digging into your soul, feeling something, seeing something out there, and it resonating with you to the point where you put in an effort, you go the extra mile, you do something that you wouldn't otherwise do because of how you feel, because of how you've been touched by someone's speech, by what you've seen on TV, by how someone's come across to you. It makes you want to do something you otherwise wouldn't do. I get stopped very positively on the street all the time by young people and old people. They say, "Bless up, Henry, it's great what you're doing." But sometimes they say, "We need more people like you." And I say, no, we need more people like you. Why does it always have to be a famous person or a celebrity? Each one can teach one.
David, thank you very much for that lovely intro and fantastic VT. Some of those pictures I haven't seen for a long time. I am indeed Henry Bonsu, Henry Nana Kwame Ose Bonsu. That would be my name in Accra, but in Manchester and Brixton, I'm Henry Bonsu. England, sorry. Fantastic, it's great to see so many of you here. David, you set the bar really high. One more time for that fantastic series of images and for the GT choir. Yeah. So I'm real flesh and blood of Ashanti stock. I'm not AI. I'm real, and I'm delighted to be. Well, maybe I'll be AI by the end of the afternoon. Who knows? But I'm delighted to be back as your host for the UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference. This gathering, as you'll know if you've been here before, is playing a critical role in promoting change and understanding of the systemic challenges that Black entrepreneurs face in the UK, and as ever, our focus is also about seeking solutions in a dynamic and innovative way. I'm pleased to see, I think, is that Lord Hastings? Lord Hastings of Scarisbrick, chair of the London Chamber of Commerce Black Business Association and Cornerstone Partners. You'll hear and see more of him in just a few minutes' time. And is that Peter J? Peter J, is that you, Peter J? Yeah, Peter J, Innovation Lead at the Department of Business and Trade. We've got a new business secretary, I think, don't we? It used to be Kemi Badenoch, but she's now in opposition. The new business... Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. A very dynamic and energetic trade and business secretary. We now have a new one. Is it Jonathan Reynolds? Is that right? Okay. Send him our best wishes and tell him to send the checks here. Okay. No. It's about energy, it's about business, it's about exchange, it's about ideas. And this is the third UK Black Business Entrepreneurs Conference. And yes, indeed, yes, why not? And it continues to build on the findings of the Black Entrepreneurs Report, written by Dr. Carlton Brown. You'll see him in a moment. And that report was launched at the first conference in 2021. And it gives an up-to-date insight into black entrepreneurship within the UK. Our intention today is to promote dialogue between different parts of the business community, the policymakers, the financial institutions, government, the public and private sectors, third sectors. We want genuine, meaningful dialogue, things that will get you inspired, but also get you trading. You'll tell us more about this, Dr. Brown, I'm sure, but ethnic minority-owned businesses represent nearly 7% of all registered businesses in the UK, meaning some 300,000 or so, ethnic minority-owned or led. And the watchword, there's three of them: empower, engage, and educate. That's what we need. We want to give people the tools they need to achieve greater success and connect them with buyers in the public and private sectors. We've got an outstanding lineup of speakers and innovative sessions. You might think it's a long day. Actually, 9 till 5 is not too long, and it will pass by very, very quickly because these people are going to seize you, they're going to inform you, and they're going to entertain you. I hope. Let me give a few names. You've already heard about Lord Hastings and Dr. Brown. They'll be on stage very soon. You'll also hear from Valerie Brandis, founder of Jacaranda Books, and Nedra Dixon, Managing Director, Global Supply Inclusion and Sustainability Lead at Accenture, Byron Dixon, OBE, founder and CEO of the award-winning brand Microfresh, Teresa Harrison, Global Director of Environmental, Social Governance Services and Enablement Services, Lead at EY. There's so many. No, it's true, so many. I want to leave you wanting more. So, David has set the scene in his own artistic way. We're going to build on that. And if you've been here before, you will know there's only one way to give you the context, the energy, and set the ball rolling. So, let me introduce him before you see him on VT, and then in the flesh, not AI, in the flesh again. He's been a political broadcaster. He's been a BBC Corporate Affairs Executive, KPMG's Global Head of Citizenship, Chair of Trustees at SOAS, and Chair of the London Chamber of Commerce's Black Business Association. Before we meet the three-dimensional, indomitable Lord Hastings of Scarisbrick, let's take a look at him in action.
Most of you are here today because you're probably thinking about how do you make and create big, strong, successful businesses? How do you become the engines of the future? How do you maybe possibly become the man who or woman who makes Uber or Airbnb or whatever it happens to be, the next founder of Microsoft 2020? That could be your dream. But if that's the limits of your dream, what kind of world will you have created? It's far too easy to have ignorance trump intelligence when you're driven by self-deceit and just pure promotion. So yes, aim to be extremely successful. Learn the best tools and techniques in the course of the day. Have your heart focused on these objectives.
Please welcome on stage Lord Hastings. Fantastic. Just one thing, I need to take one thing away. Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Or your phone.
As well. You're too kind.
It's got all his account details in there.
Oh, there's nobody left.
True conservative.
Yeah, sure.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And I'm sure you've noticed something, that it's sunny outside. That's because England won last night. And did you notice, if I may just gently say it, a lot of black players did very well. It's the time when the country really celebrates immigration, isn't it? You're welcome here as long as you... Anyway, there we go. Sharpen your football skills. You're on your way. Or if you make good patties, you're on your way likewise. Can I just begin with paying tribute to my very dear friend Carlton Brown? And I think it's important that we all recognize that he does this with deep integrity and personal passion. He doesn't have to bear with the stress of all of you for this day, but he chooses to do that. And it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of work to bring us together, but he's just inspired and inspiring in his determination to make sure that the Business Voice has much colour to it. And we're thankful to you, Carlton. Thank you. Thank you. Now, you might have noticed something in the last week, which is there's been a change towards change. And so there's a whole new mood of optimism around, isn't there? And of course, if England do win on Sunday, Keir Starmer will say it's all because of a Labour government. Which, might have a little to do with it, but I'm sure not that much. But the mood of change that is around is encapsulating. It sort of gets to your psyche, doesn't it? You begin to believe that everything is all of a sudden possible when it wasn't possible the day before. Things open up in the mind and we become enthusiastic and we begin to grip ourselves with energy we didn't have before. That's a good thing. This morning, some statistics were published. And the statistics that were published this morning show that 6.8 million people in the UK are currently economically inactive because they say they are not well enough to work. And 2.8 million people in the UK feel that they're permanently excluded from work because of long-term sickness. 1 in 8 children are no longer attending school than they were doing before. School absenteeism since COVID has doubled. So there is a sort of meltdown mood that lies below the optimism that we have to be realistic about. There is a sort of despairing, is it worth it anymore? People lose their edge. Somebody was contesting with me during the course of the election. Of course, as a non-political member of the House of Lords, I tried to stay out of the fray as much as possible, not lean one way or the other, or even in the middle, just stay out of the fray and then let it happen. And the joy for those of us in the House of Lords is we don't have to face the public. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, it was Winston Churchill's famous quote. He said that, the greatest argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the ordinary citizen. So we don't have to face the ordinary citizen. That's why we persist like a still ship of state sliding through the turmoil. But there we go. Life carries on. But when you see that people who have optimism and energy and creativity don't feel that they could break through, it isn't there for them. How do we create that culture of dynamic conviction that will allow not just black business, but business energizing to become at the heart of the UK economy all over again? We need it. We need it. But one of the people who was contesting with me during the course of, privately, thank goodness, during the course of the election, was saying, this place, this country is in despair. And they actually said they followed the mantra, everything is broken, nothing works. So I said to that chap, could you just go over to the wall and turn the light on? And they did. I said, oh, it doesn't work, does it? It does. Would you like to go to the tap and turn that on? Oh, it doesn't work, does it? Would you like to get the underground? Oh, would you like to take the Elizabeth line across London? Oh, it doesn't work, does it? You see, we are very easily fed a mantra of pessimism. And in that mantra of pessimism, we incline towards it because maybe our own circumstances are not as positive as they need to be. I have a very strong conviction, and this is where I want to take this journey, if I may, a very strong conviction that we have to shift in this next phase of our economic and political, as it were, development. We need to shift towards the place that requires our greatest attention. Take a look at this and read the content that's on the right. Now, this is not an AI invention. I didn't make it up. This is an antiquated, and it's nearly as old as Carlton and I, 100-year-old cartoon, or certainly me, 100-year-old cartoon by Bob Miner. When he drew this cartoon 100 years ago, where social media did not exist, the internet did not exist, everything was still in the Encyclopedia Britannica if you could manage to carry it, there was no ability to get access to instantaneous geopolitical information. How did he know? Because when you look at that cartoon, maybe with the exception of Africa, the rest is largely true. How did he know? Well, Bob Miner, who was not just a cartoonist, but was also a political theorist, was studying the habits, the mindsets, the inclinations, the attitudes, the development thinking of people across different countries in the only way he could by visiting, by discussing, by conversation, and by attribution, listening to others and heeding his own insights. It became obvious to him that what you naturally saw of China and India 100 years ago enslaved countries, certainly India was, China backward, a minority non-entity, that it would emerge into this place of great brilliance. If you watched the football last night, and I did, if you watched it to the bitter end, you will have seen over 200 references to BYD. Who can tell me what BYD is? Say it again. Say it again. Build your dreams. What is it? What is a Chinese car? It's a Chinese car which 2 years ago you would never have seen on a European road. Step out now and you will be almost run over by them. They are everywhere. Tesla is now a minority electric car producer. Get that? BYD and MG, two Chinese developed, Chinese manufactured, but MG actually British design developed, made in China, exported to Europe, panicking the Americans, panicking the Europeans, because as far as we were concerned, Tesla had it hit. Not anymore. China's ability to craft an innovation, to spark to life, to bring something of dynamism. The US, our friend here is from the US, of course, they're in a panic. It's too hot, and that's just talking about Joe Biden's seat. But the American Congress has been sweating, quite literally, about how they might clamp down on TikTok. Because, you know, after all, Americans make social media, don't they? They created Meta and Facebook and Snapchat and all of those other wonderful things you waste your time on. And so, because they've got it, and that feeds all its information quite rightly into the Pentagon, that's the right way to do it. Along come the Chinese with something called TikTok, and it feeds its information to the Politburo in Moscow and also to the Chinese political headquarters, and all of a sudden it's an offense. Anyway, never mind. You see, the Chinese just said to themselves, let's just see what the Americans are doing. Let's observe this man called Tesla Man. Let's see Miss Elon. And let's create something more fascinating, better, cheaper, more effective, more efficient, and actually more desirable. You see, the pattern of innovation comes out of the observation of critical skills. So in the case of the observations of China and India, Bob Miner, from 100 years ago, galvanized the capacities that were necessary for massive, significant economic growth. Down the bottom, little US, little France, little England. Well, at least we're there. In the background, it's Russia. The question is, can Africa stand equally tall? And alongside the question of the continent, and it's 53, 54, depending on whether you include one or two countries, is it possible that black communities, black countries, can outperform not just on the football field, but in the business market? Is it possible? Can we rise to it? Can we achieve it? Well, here's something of the discomfort. These are young men fleeing the continent of Africa. These pictures were taken on Monday. So this is not historic. These pictures show men across the desert, in fact, in Algeria, heading towards the boundaries of the country in order to leap across to Europe. According to the International Migration Figures 2023, there are now 27.8 million non-standard Europeans within the EU, mostly coming as migrants across from Africa and some from the Middle East. The same, let me go back one. These men who are young, under 40, and energetic are fleeing the continent for what they appear to think is a better life somewhere else. Have you got news for them? What is that news? You see, if the news for them is stay put, with what help? With whose investment? With what conviction? With what innovation and ideas? How will we deliver for them a future that will allow them to get to the position where this is possible? I was asked to go with a group of Nigerian business leaders, around 100. There were 80 men, 20 women. I was asked to go to Qatar in March this year. I don't know why they wanted to go from Lagos to Qatar, but never mind. So I went to Qatar, and I took my son Kenny with me, who is the author of That Peckham Boy. So if you haven't bought the book, we promoted it last year, but to please get That Peckham Boy and read his story. And we spent 5 days in the company of these 100 incredibly wealthy Nigerian business leaders. So wealthy, I can tell you, that for them to attend the conference itself, so Carlton, here's a hint, was $14,000 to attend. And by the way, I didn't get paid a penny, just so you know. But for them to attend the conference was $14,000, in addition to their flights and hotels. So that tells you of their capacity. What I discovered in the conversations with them over the course of the 4 days was that the opportunity for developing the same largesse to their wider community was pretty dismally absent. There was a huge protective zone around those who've succeeded over those who are yet to find a window of opportunity. And I began my second speech by asking the question, might it be said to be true that the core instinct of Africans, and to some extent Caribbeans, entering the business world is to say, let me make it so you can just stay where you're broken? They all agreed that was true. This is a harrowing picture. Some of you are old enough to remember this picture. 1993. This little child just about to be consumed by a vulture in Sudan. Well, Kevin Carter took the picture in 1993 and then went on just a few months later to win the Pulitzer Prize announced in New York for the best and most dynamic picture of what was said to be the year, if not the decade. What's interesting is that when Kevin Carter saw this little child, who was barely 2 years old, he didn't pick the child up and move them literally 100 feet. 100 feet to sing. He didn't do that so that they could be rescued, fed, sorted, and saved. He fled from the scene because, as he was asked by a young girl who rang into a radio program in New York on him winning the Pulitzer Prize in 1994, Mr. Carter, did you rescue the little girl? To which he responded, I didn't. I left her because I had a flight to catch. And he stepped away to get the flight, to get back, so that he could submit his picture for the Pulitzer Prize. The little girl, apparently 8 years of age, said, Mr. Carter, I venture to suggest to you that there were 2 vultures there that day, and one of them had a camera. 3 weeks later, he committed suicide. It's dead easy to observe distress. Dead easy. Just read the top paragraph. This is from Tuesday. Now, I believe that undoubtedly it is possible to arrest this perpetual state of decay and decline. I have to believe that. You have to believe that. But we must engineer to make it possible. the better our British business brilliance shines, the more profitable we collectively make it, the more secure our positive business environment here is, the more we must invest over there. Because you and I cannot go into the prospects of a future where everybody in the current mood is about change and opportunity and what's positive and what can be done, and simply turn it into gated communities of our own security. We all know that. 4 weeks ago, I was in Nairobi in Kenya. I go to Nairobi for two main reasons. One is to address an annual presidential gathering. I've seen Mr. Ruto 4 times now in that, and we get on well. Anyway, let me leave it at that. And the other reason is that for the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of being a governor of the Safaricom, Vodafone, and M-Pesa Academy in Nairobi. We are a boarding school. We have 700 children. They come from every single one of the 43 counties of Kenya, and it's a free, full boarding experience with the quality of schooling, education, accommodation, living, and technology that would make Eton embarrassed. It is superb, and we have an endowment of over $200 million, which funds the school on an annualized basis to provide for secondary and then tertiary education, sending our students on to Kenyan, British, and American universities. We are able to do that because 25 years ago, Vodafone put £1 million into a pot. The UK government put £1 million into a pot. And guess what happened? M-Pesa was created. Anybody speak Swahili? What does M-Pesa mean? Money exchange. The British government and a business, a technology business, a telecoms business, created a system that now turns over $1 trillion a year in 17 countries. And in Kenya, the government ruled, quite rightly, that the profits of the mobile exchange system, which allowed Kenyans 24 years ago to do what we only got to do 10 years ago. So across parts of the continent of Africa, people were buying and selling on their phones when we were still running to the wall. You see, the belief that it is not possible to innovate across the continent is not true. It is, but that innovation, quite rightly in conjunction with the Kenyan government, delivers social development and economic prospects and opportunity and dignity of education for the poorest children possible. In fact, the only qualification to enter our academy is to be destitutely poor. A child must write a letter of request. A teacher from the school will visit the child, no matter how far out they are. They have to rewrite the letter in front of the teacher to see that it is their handwriting and not AI, and that it is definitely not auntie's or uncle's writing. It's their writing, and if they can prove that and the quality of what they're written represents the potential of their mind, they get a free place for the next 5 years and on to education beyond at university. Now that is because business is investing in social development and education and economic opportunity for the poorest people and creating a wealth hub that empowers the country to step forward. It's that mindset that I hope that we will adopt as black businesses, that we will not see it as the chance to locate ourselves in Dubai or California. But I seriously say to so many of my African and Caribbean friends, listen, if you have money to spend, why are you handing it out to the Arabs non-stop? Nothing wrong with that if you like. But what about making sure that the tourist trade from the countries we say we love is boosted by our perpetual commitment? Why don't we adventure across a continent most people in the UK have never seen? I've been to 17 African countries. I can tell you there is great richness of culture, business, innovation, opportunity, and relationships to be found everywhere. Why are you going to Dubai? Break the habit. And when your business does succeed, as I pray and I hope it will you sit there and simply pack it up for your pensions? Or will you say, there is a continent that deserves my attention? Because here is the challenge, and I heard Henry reflecting back on, of course, the great Ghanaian heritage, of which I have to say my grandmother was Ghanaian, so I have that element within me. My father was Angolan. My grandparents on his side were Indian. On my mother's side, my mother's mother was Ghanaian, and my mother's father was Panamanian, so I'm Scottish. Anyway, here is the critical thought from Lee Kuan Yew. Because if there is one territory that has everything to teach us about civility and possibility, it is Singapore. It had the same size of economy as Ghana in 1958. Whereas Ghana has nearly 30 million people, Singapore has 5 million people. Singapore has the world's most stable currency, virtually zero inflation, an economy that is worth observing every notch and tittle of its change every single day, a people who are consistently peaceful. It sells education and learning. It has no rivers, no mountains, no minerals, no mining, nothing that glitters apart from the mind. And Lee Kuan Yew taught his people that the essential discipline that is needed, captured here, is that a nation is great not by its size alone. It's the will, the cohesion, the stamina, the discipline of its people, and the quality of their leaders which ensure it's an honorable place in history. The same political party has governed from 1958 to this day. And why? Because they work for the people. You see, no need for change and turning it upside down and being disappointed and after 14 years and all of those things. Because they work for the people, and because they work for the people, they deliver the best. So I want to leave you with this important thought because it's deep in my heart. I feel it very strongly. I don't visit the continent for the sake of observing. I support what I do across the continent for the sake of delivering the change I believe in. Here is what, if I can attribute some thoughts to the great competitor to BYD, Elon Musk. Comfort, he said, is a drug. It's addictive. Give a weak person, I'm just going to read it, all right? Don't get upset. Give a weak person regular sex, good food, and cheap entertainment, and they'll throw their ambitions right out of the window. The comfort zone is where dreams go to die. We're too noted for our love of comfort and our lack of desire to invest and build. We have to create wealth not so we can be wealthy. We can create wealth so we can stop a problem. So I hope the rest of the day will help you to engineer for the fight ahead. Thank you.